Hey, before you blame ageism, there might be another reason why you got passed over for that last opportunity. I'm going to explain why in this episode. I want to briefly tell you a story about how I personally lost tens of thousands of dollars in a failed contract negotiation. Truly left money on the table. So if you know anything about my story, you know that I was in an education leadership role for a local school district for roughly 2 decades and did good work, loved my job, and I feel like I definitely left a lasting impact. But here's the thing is that even though I did all that good work, even though that I had a team that I think fairly respected me and we worked very, very well together collaboratively, super creative group of people, I walked away with the feel goods all the time. And when it came to a point, a season where it seemed like I was being overlooked for some opportunities, I definitely would, nobody was coming to me and saying, hey, you've done such good work. We want to give you this amazing new contract, which was going to be a big pay raise. No, none of that happened. I took for granted that somebody was just going to deliver these opportunities to my doorstep. And that was not the case. So I kind of put on my big girl pants and decided that I was going to negotiate for a better contract, which that was something that was happening with other people. And I just didn't realize it. Folks started, I won't say bragging, but they started oversharing some of what they were getting in their contract renewals or things that other perks and just simple opportunities that I wasn't seeing coming my way. So, of course, I start, looking, comparing my work and their work, comparing my position and their position, comparing the team that I was leading or the teams, plural, that I was leading compared to the teams and the size of the projects that they were heading up. And I started realizing, like, wait a second, I got a bigger team. I got more projects. I got a bigger budget. I mean, all of the things just were not adding up. As they say, the math was not mathing, but I was the one that seemed to be paid the least. So that's how we got to that point. So when it was time to renew my contract, I called for a meeting, asked for a meeting with my supervisor so that we could talk this out. So he knew this was coming. He knew that this is what I was aiming for. And I walked into that conversation so confident because I'd been loyal. I checked all the boxes and done the good work. I had a team that seemed reasonably satisfied with the work that they were doing. We had a lot of fun projects, a lot of impactful projects. So I just assumed that he remembered all of those great things that I was doing. Well, cut to the chase, he did not. I mean, and here's the thing that we got to remember is that your supervisor is not just supervising you. They've got multiple people that they are managing. They've got multiple projects, multiple budgets that they're overseeing. So your little slice of the pie is truly just one small piece of all of the things that are keeping them up at night. So my failure was that I assumed that the spotlight was on me. I assumed that he remembered all of the long hours and big projects and, partnerships that I brought in. And in that conversation, midway through, without any evidence of the work that I'd done, without any archived pieces or elements that were proof, that were tangible proof that would jog that memory, that would help him understand how my piece of the puzzle had a bigger impact on the organization. I came into that conversation with nothing. I essentially was hoping that and I say they, the leadership of the organization, that their goodwill was going to magically show up and decide that I was so deserving of this thing. Well, actually, I was the one that came to the table with none of that documentation, with none of those bits of evidence that was going to prove that I deserved what I was asking for. In that conversation, my request for a better contract was denied. I was given an alternate offer that I felt was insulting. And I knew just by talking to other colleagues that were at the same level with me, I knew that what they were offering me was far less compensation than what my other colleagues were receiving. Doesn't mean that they weren't doing good work. Doesn't mean that everybody wasn't, producing as they should. But I felt like I was given the short end of the stick. I felt like I was being lowballed for something where I thought I deserved more. So probably the worst part of that conversation is that when it didn't work out, midway through, and I realized I was not going to get the offer that I was hoping for, I started crying. I was in a contract negotiation and I started crying like a little baby because they told me no, because they didn't see what I thought was my value. They didn't see or remember all of the work and the endless hours and the extra invisible projects, the invisible work that I like to refer to. That none of that was evident in that conversation. So I ended up being the one that walked out empty handed, and it was a failure. It was probably my lowest point professionally. And I walked away knowing that I'd left money and leverage on the table. Leverage because felt like I was very influential within the district. Left money on the table because I didn't get the contract that I wanted. And the moment was humbling, but wasn't because I lacked experience. It was because I had no concrete proof prepared to show the full scope of what I had accomplished. So that was one of those moments where I said, okay, never again, never again. I will make sure that I am keeping record of what I'm doing so that I will never be in a conversation again where I was ill prepared to be able to illustrate my value. And you may also be in a situation like a lot of other midlife professionals where you're thinking, my work should speak for itself. You're standing there on principle. My work should speak for itself. They already know what I bring to the table. And the reality is that no, they don't. It doesn't mean they're bad people, but your decision makers respond to evidence, not memory. And this is going to hit a little harder in midlife because you've got years of impact. You've got years of expertise, but it's spread across different roles. It's spread across multiple teams. And leadership may have changed in your organization since you've done all of that valuable work. And most of that valuable work might actually be invisible because you haven't taken the time to measure it and capture it and archive it. So the key thing is that I don't want you to miss opportunities because you lack experience. Actually, the opposite. You've got the experience, but you miss the opportunities because you don't have clear evidence ready to present when it matters. So, I'm calling all of this, my little framework is always called collect your receipts. But you're probably wondering, why the heck is she talking about receipts? That makes no sense, talking about receipts and career. Well, I want to put this in everyday terms for a second, because if you're in a retail situation, wherever you shop, and you can absolutely love a product. You can swear that you paid for it, and you can even have a personal relationship with the cashier where they know you because you're such a loyal customer. You come in there all the time. They know your style. But if you walk back into that store and you want a refund or an exchange, or you want to dispute a charge, they're going to ask you one question. Do you have your receipt? And that's fair, because that receipt is not about do they like you, do they trust you? It's verification. It is proof of what happened, when it happened, and what value, dollar value, was exchanged. So think about how this applies to your career, because your career and receipts works the same way. Because when you ask for a raise, when you are asking for a promotion or in a promotion discussion, or maybe even a new role like a job interview or a contract renewal like me, there's money on the other side of that conversation. There's a bigger stake for you to come out of that successfully. You're essentially asking the organization to validate the value you delivered. So this is a way of having your professional receipt. A career receipt is what we're talking about. And that career receipt is going to be evidence that documents your contribution, your influence, or the results that you have brought to the table. So that's going to be the metrics, the artifacts, meaningful feedback that you've gotten from colleagues or from your supervisors. It all answers the same questions that a store receipt does in the earlier example. It's asking what happened. It's asking when did it happen? What was the outcome? And why did it matter? And remember that keeping your receipts, keeping score is not bragging. It's not exaggerating. It's not bloating up your ego. Just like with the store receipt, it is not going to be an argument. It is simply going to be proof of what happened. And this is, going back to my own story, my own failed, embarrassing situation. In that contract negotiation, I was asking for a higher rate. I was asking for more money without having my receipts ready. I knew that I had delivered value. I had zero documentation that measured what I'd actually accomplished. So they were correct in denying what I was asking for. It's hard to admit that. It was an emotional moment when I didn't get that. Like I said, I cried like a stupid baby. So they were correct in denying what I was asking for in that new contract. And it pains me to admit that, but it's true. So even back to the store analogy, if you would never walk into a store and expect a full refund without any proof, you should not walk into a career conversation without evidence either. So I want to walk you through what my whole collect your receipts framework is all about. And this is where you are going to, start to create a central hub. First of all, you're going to create something that is cloud-based and easy for you to update. That's going to be a Google Doc or an Apple Notes app, wherever you might be thinking, okay, I can just remember this. No, your memory is going to fail you, honey. We are in midlife. Yes, sometimes we can't remember what we even ate for lunch yesterday. So let me walk you through this at a high level, because overall you are creating a system that you can repeat over and over again. Step one, you're going to create your central hub, and that's going to be one place where you store the evidence of your work. It needs to be digital. It needs to be cloud-based so that you can easily update it and access it in the moment. I don't want you to rely on scattered notes. I don't want you to rely on things that are saved in a bunch of different places. You're going to put it in that central hub. Step two, you're going to identify and capture your wins in real time. So that's going to be the projects that you delivered, the problems that you solved, decisions that you influenced. These are all the things that are going to be captured in that central hub. I want to encourage you to do this as it happens, not weeks and months later, because again, your memory will fail you, life will happen, and you will start to get a little bit fuzzy on the details on something that matters very much about you being super sharp on the details. Step three, capturing the details themselves. So you want to be able to answer simple questions like, who was involved? What was it that you led or even contributed to the project? When did it happen? How did you create the outcome? You want to be able to capture all of these details, because when the time matters, you need to be able to tell the full story, and all of this is going to matter. So keep that in mind, because in the next step, step four, you're going to need to be able to quantify your impact, because metrics are going to give your story weight. Giving rough estimates is acceptable, but if you're capturing the details in the moment, then you can be super sharp with it. You want to be able to show that there was progress and improvement that was possible because of your contribution. So let's think about this in a real world example. Let's say that you're preparing for a high stakes conversation like a promotion. And in that promotion, it's almost like going for a job interview. You're not casually hoping that this comes up. You probably have an actual meeting where you're going to get a chance to advocate for yourself. And the question that they're going to be asking, the one that is going to be central to the whole conversation, is, why are you ready for whatever this next thing is? What impact have you made that justifies you getting this new thing, whether it's a promotion, a role, new role, better contract, all of that. So what you're going to do is start with the work that you already did. Think about it. You may have led a cross-functional project that improved a process your team was struggling with. And at the time, you probably just thought, this is my job. I'm doing, what is part of my job. And that may be true that you were just helping out or it's just a part of your job, but you really want to pause for a second, because that mindset is exactly why so many people walk into these conversations and they're completely unprepared because just like me, did a lot of projects, contributed a lot of things, and I just thought it was my job. But when it came time for me to actually talk about why I deserve the next thing, I didn't remember all those times when I was just doing my job. So you want to walk into the conversation with your receipts and you want to look inside your system that's going to help you bring context, bring color to all of the things. And you want to break it down into some very simple questions that you can answer. So first thing, who? And that might be you. You led this initiative, or it might be the stakeholders that were included, like the folks in your department or the leadership team, or maybe a partner team that was included. Then talk about the what. You maybe redesigned a workflow that was something that had initially been slowing down delivery. And when this happened, it took place over, say, a 3-month time period. Then answer the how. The how was because you introduced a new process, then you trained the team on that new process, and you created documentation that was going to further support them being able to carry out the new process. Next, going to have to quantify the impact. That means you are going to add some numbers, percentages, dollars to the story. So before, that project or that process probably took 10 days to complete in this scenario. And your team frustration was really high. People were all over each other. The deadlines were regularly missed. But after you introduced this new process, jet completion was dropped from 10 days down to 7 days. So mathematically, that's a 30% improvement. And you probably got fewer escalations, fewer complaints. You had a higher on-time delivery rate. So in that moment, you did not just help, you changed outcomes. And that's how you need to be able to talk about it. Not that you carried out your regular job duties, but what changed because of your contribution. So this is how one receipt, that one scenario could be reused over and over in various types of high stakes conversations. So in a promotion conversation, you could say that over the previous quarter, you led an initiative that reduced project turnaround time by 30%. You improved team efficiency and you increased on-time delivery. These are all power statements. So if you use that exact same scenario, use that exact same receipt in a performance review, you could say, one of my key contributions this year was improving operational efficiency by redesigning our workflow, which resulted in faster delivery time and fewer escalations. In an interview situation, take the same receipt and you would say, I specialize in identifying bottlenecks and implementing solutions. And in my current role, I led a process improvement that reduced turnaround time by 30% across multiple teams. So this is still the same work, the same example, but you're using it in various high stakes conversations. So it is the same work, same receipt, different conversations, but what changes is that it puts you in a position of being able to really clearly demonstrate how you bring value to the table. So I want to tie it back to something that I mentioned earlier, because this is what the preparation actually looks like. So you're not scrambling and stumbling all over your words like I am. You are not in the moment trying to remember. Don't do that, honey. We're in midlife. Our memory is not as sharp as it used to be, but you can actually put together a system so that you are not coming into the conversations underselling yourself. And when you walk into those high stakes conversations with your receipts, you are no longer hoping that they see your value like me. So instead of hoping, you are now showing it. And this is exactly why I teach people to collect their receipts long before you are ever going to need it. If you wait until the meeting, the high stakes meeting is scheduled, you are already behind. I want you to actually create a system that is easily repeatable so that you are capturing these wins and the details in real time. I don't want you to worry about sounding boastful. Say I'm not good at tracking numbers or percentages or whatever. just stop right there, because you want to think about this documentation as your self-advocacy, your career insurance. And being able to measure your impact is a professional skill, not an ego issue. So if you do not come into these situations with clear documentation and measuring your work, someone else will define your value for you. And I guarantee, my dear, that they are going to undervalue what you are actually worth. And this is going to have an impact on you personally in the long run, because when you start taking regular documentation, it becomes a habit. You start to see so many career opportunities, tasks, you see it differently. You see it as opportunities to negotiate your next opportunity with facts. And you're able to respond quickly to opportunities as soon as they appear, because you're not scrambling at the last minute to try to figure out or rehearse language that doesn't feel authentic to you. And this is going to be an ongoing thing, something that you are not doing just one time. You're going to easily repeat this over and over again, so that by the end of the month, by the end of the quarter, you've got all the evidence that you need anytime an opportunity is going to come up. And if this clicked with you and you're wondering, okay, you have my attention. I understand, Akilah. Tell me where to start. Well, that is exactly why I created my Collect Your Receipts workbook. And you can go to the link in the description and download your copy of it. This is going to guide you step by step in a simple structure so that you capture and measure your impact every week in real time. And quite frankly, if you get any value out of using this Collect Your Receipts framework, I really do want to hear from you. So put it in the comments. Number one, if you have any questions about what we've talked about here in this episode, but also if you may have gotten, some benefit from it, or if you may have some additional tips of how we can make this a simple, repeatable system. So I want to hear from you. Put that in the comments and share this with somebody else who might be struggling with the same type of way of articulating their value. But more than anything, I'm really happy that you stopped here for this episode. I hope that it was well worth your time. And just remember that you probably are not behind. Missing out on opportunities might not be about ageism. It might just be that you need to start properly documenting your work so that you can articulate your value when the time comes. If you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate you sticking around for the next episode. I've got lots of other things to teach you, but be sure that you share this with a midlife buddy that could also benefit from the same information. Alrighty, thanks for coming by, and I will see you next time.